Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
So, Richard Marquand, who is the son of James Marquand, who is the director for Return of the Jedi, is defending his father. It's a weird line. Basically, the son of the director for Return of the Jedi is defending his father's work. And what happened is, if you don't remember, back in the day when Return of the Jedi came out, it didn't get the best praise. It wasn't like a flop, and it wasn't like hated nonstop. But compared to, you know, episodes 4 and 5, you know, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, it didn't get the same amount of love. And to be fair, a lot of third films aren't that great. But still, the son of director James Marquand, Richard Marquand, defends his father's work, and here's what he says. He was the director, and he did all the directing. Lucas was a presence. He was a presence as you would expect. He created the Empire, so it was always understood that he would be a presence. There were specific things that my dad was brought into the project to do, mainly working with the actors. When I think back into my dad's involvement, I'm massively proud of him. I do think he delivered his role, which is deliver a film on time and on budget and get the performance out of the actors. He says when it came out, it was the #1 grossing film of all time, and it's still probably quite high on the list, so job done. He said, I guess the Star Wars saga is owned by the world and with social media, where everyone's an expert. And then he kind of goes on to say that there's a fair bit of bitterness in his family, you know, towards Star Wars fans for the hate that his father got for the film. And like I said, Return of the Jedi is not the greatest original trilogy film. I love it because I think it's a good film. But yeah, when it came out, a lot of criticisms were, well, the first hour's kind of and then you get to the Ewoks and it gets really like downhill. It's like, oh, okay. And you know, no offense to George Lucas, you could see the George Lucas impact on that, where he's really trying to get money out of the toys for the Ewoks. And I mean, it's kind of obvious when they came out with a movie for the Ewoks. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the Ewoks were put in for a business perspective of making money off the toys and everything. I mean, that's just blatantly clear, and that does kind of bring the film down a little bit. Overall, though, I think the film's fine. Third movies in a trilogy are always the ones that don't do so well. I mean, there's a lot of classic third movies that just simply aren't what they could be and what they should be. You have Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, Superman 3, Terminator 3, Rise of Machines, Spider-Man 3, Transformers 3, Dark of the Moon, Highlander 3, X-Men The Last Stand, which is the third one, Batman Forever, Matrix Revolutions, RoboCop 3, Alien 3. I mean, come on. Even fucking Back to the Future 3 wasn't that good. So yeah, there's a lot of bad third films, and it's kind of just expected at this point. But to be fair, I think Return of the Jedi is a solid film, and I think it always will be a solid film. It seems like it's James Marquand, right? That's the son. Yeah, James Marquand, or whatever his name is the director for Return of the Jedi. He seems to be the guy who got some crap for Return of the Jedi instead of someone like George Lucas or the writers for it. And to be fair, yeah, the director's kind of the guy who's always in charge. And I understand the criticisms for the film. There's valid ones. I mean, there really are valid ones. Han Solo felt very out of character. What was surprising to me, though, reading this and seeing what his son Richard Marquand was saying, is that his father James was brought in to direct and mainly work with the actors, which makes complete and logical sense. George Lucas, as you know, or you might not know, a lot of people won't admit, and he himself has kind of already admitted, he's not a very good director when it comes to dealing with the actors. He even said to I forget who it was. I think it was Ron Howard. Ron Howard said in his interview about American Graffiti that when George Lucas was talking to him about directing, he was like, yeah, you know, you don't have to deal... the great thing about editing is that you don't have to deal with the actors and everything, and Ron Howard was basically saying that it was kind of weird that, you know, he was saying to an actor that he doesn't really like dealing with actors. And as Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill have said in the past, is that George Lucas is not a good director when it comes to telling what the actors to do. You know, he didn't really tell them what emotions they were feeling or anything. And I believe it was Mark Hamill who talked about Harrison Ford, and he said that Harrison would literally start like getting mad at Lucas and say, you can write these lines, but you can't say them. Because, I mean, you look at some of the lines written in the original trilogy, they're pretty bad. And even with the prequels, I mean, they're pretty fucking bad in terms of dialogue. And so some actors have to change things, you know, like the whole Han Solo saying, like, where she's like, I love you, and he's like, I love you too, or something like that. It's not that it's bad writing, it's just out of character for Han. And so, of course, Harrison Ford had to go out of script himself and say, I know. And that seemed more in character, and it was more emotional and impactful. So you have stuff like that where it makes sense why Lucas would bring in a different director to work solely on the actors, because, like he knows, and like we all know, that he's not a good director when it comes to dealing with the actors. He's great, however, in the editing stage. That's something he always loves to do. So, I don't know, I think this is kind of interesting, and I think this is a good interpretation of how, you know, we haven't really changed as a fan base much. We always have been and will be very passionate about Star Wars. And even back in 1983 when Return of the Jedi came out, a lot of people were critical about the film because it wasn't as good as the past two, and it didn't live up to the expectations of the finale of the saga, and rightfully so. It wasn't as good as the past two, and that's fine. It just shows how we were so passionate back then. 35 years later, we're still very passionate about Star Wars, even though it's a completely new generation of fans. So it's very interesting how, you know, one franchise can, over a span of 40 years, still have the same meaning, impact, and passion from the fans, whether it's good or bad. It's just kind of, you know, it's interesting. It's very interesting that we're still this passionate. But I don't know. Comment your thoughts below. What do you guys think about this? Is Return of the Jedi overrated, underrated? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? What do you think about Richard coming out and defending his father's James Marquand about Episode 6, Return of the Jedi? What do you think about Return of the Jedi? I don't know. Comment your thoughts below. Star Wars only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you all next time. May the Force be with you always.